climate change, right? Of course.
What?
Are we meant to start on climate change themes like we normally do? Global warming?
Have you ever included it in any of the videos?
No. God,
So what's the point?
I have. It was Silverstone. I included it on Silverstone.
Yeah.
Climate change. I mean, seriously, honestly.
Well, people, it is blinking cold, but we're used to 30-degree weathers, so 12 degrees is freezing to us. Oh, it's freezing.
It is. John, tell me, can you break out any of your Hungarian, or are you a little bit rusty?
Hungarian? No, I have no idea what Hungarian is.
Eastern Baltic sort of language. You got any there for us? Anything for the fans today?
No, hang on.
Here we go. Wait for it. Blank.
Nine! No, that's German.
Poor attempt at Hungarian.
Oh my god.
Honestly.
Hang on.
We'll need
Niet! That's Russian.
Oh, yeah, you're deviating further and further away. Quick while you're ahead.
There's no Hungarian in this. But I do want to go to Budapest. Anyway, the Daddies today give you the top 5 happenings of 2018 Formula 1 Grand Prix, Budapest, Hungary.
Hungaroring.
Prior to Budapest even happening, quite a few interesting things going on in the paddock, which we kind of like to bring to everybody's attention, just to call to you from that historical reference point of view, what's going on.
Yeah.
First of all, Marchione.
Yeah.
Wow. What a sad day. For anybody who's not really familiar with how important the boss, president of the Ferrari team really is, you really need to bring attention to his achievements. And probably head and shoulders above anything else that he's ever done. And don't quote me on these figures because I'm not entirely sure that how accurate they are, but I am aware of the fact that he was the boss of Fiat at a point in time where Fiat was going under, massively going under. He brokered the merger between Fiat and Chrysler at a time where Chrysler was about to just shut its doors. But apparently it's something like $1 billion deficit to basically cash positive inside of 12 months, which apparently did something like that.
We'll check your sources, Joel.
We will. But regardless of the actual numbers, he's most famous, probably most recently, for the fact that he's the president of the Formula 1 Grand Prix Ferrari team. So, very, very sad scenario. Apparently he had surgery on his shoulder, something to do with some invasive cancer. And during that, he had some kind of an embolism or something went wrong inside of his head. And he went into a coma and just did not recover. 66 years old.
Our condolences to everybody at the Ferrari team and the family.
Second thing we need to call out is Force India.
Ooh.
Wow. A creditor had decided that
Not Prix
himself. They wanted to call in the liquidation of the team, which basically would have resulted in Force India, well, that's it, they're closing doors.
Under UK law, being a wind-up order. So effectively, putting it into liquidation.
Sergio Perez, who I actually didn't realise he was a shareholder of Force India, so there you go, not just a driver, has some money owed to him. That plus also their main sponsor, BWT, had basically called about the VA, voluntary administration process, in order to forestall or stop the liquidation and basically give the team the opportunity to be bought out. Hopefully that means that Force India can keep running.
We don't know the full story, but we certainly rationalise with Perez's thoughts, don't we?
Oh, absolutely.
On maintaining jobs for the 406 employees until such time as a purchaser can be found.
There's quite a few people who are looking to buy Force India. Lance Stroll's dad, Canadian billionaire.
An ulterior motive, perhaps, or he's firmly entrenched with Williams right now, so to unravel all of that has, I believe, a little bit of a sinister undertone, particularly given the position that Williams finds themselves in.
Second interested party apparently is an energy drink team called Rich Energy. The last suitors who I'm aware of is led by a guy named Michael Andretti.
Oh, yeah.
Any relation to Mario?
Who knows? Again, we'll fact check that one, but apparently he owns a team in IndyCar right now, right?
Ah, that's correct.
So,
and he's leading an American consortium to apparently attempt the takeover.
And apparently some Russian oligarch, Dmitry...
That's right. You mentioned that to me this morning, and I completely skipped my mind. But there you go.
Races what? GP3.
GP3.
He's the test driver for Force India. Again, who knows? There's some connection there. Some connection, Joel.
Money dogs.
It does. It certainly does.
And whiskey.
And ready it is. What happened a couple of days ago, Joel? Again, we're late to the party, so this kind of makes us relevant.
Oh, biggest shock.
Hometown hero?
Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, look.
Moved to Renault. Believe me, I was shocked for about 30 seconds, and then it clicked in my head, and I went, I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's still a shock regardless, especially since you're talking about a person who's come up through the ranks of the Toro Rosso program, the Red Bull program, basically being Red Bull his entire F1 career. He's done well for them. Oh, look, I didn't see it coming just because there was so much talk about him re-signing for Red Bull. We knew there was no seat for him in Mercedes. I don't believe there was ever going to be a chance of him moving to Ferrari. In my opinion, I think he's actually made a good choice. Renault Works team is a good choice for Daniel, and to partner up with Magnussen is not a bad deal, especially if you've got somebody who actually has your back. And I'm not trying to put the knock on to Max Verstappen, but very clearly this season there has been what looks to be a little bit of favoritism in one direction more than the other.
We've talked a lot about wingman and number twos and other teams. We haven't really talked a lot about Red Bull wingman. Who would the replacement for Ricciardo be? Because there's a lot of talk about Gasly being a worthy contender. He's got that Honda engine experience, which is essentially what Red Bull are going to need next year. But these are my thoughts. Two young guys, both hotheads. I mean, only look at Gasly's interactions with Hartley this year when something's happened. Both very, very good at driving. I don't know. I think that's a recipe for a little bit of disaster. Look, I sniff a little bit of a Vettel / Mark Webber.
Now, here's the interesting thing, though. So if Gasly comes on board and he is given his orders to give way and basically be respectful of Max's position, then I think they're fine, as long as they understand that Max is number one and Gasly is coming in at number two. But if they do come in and they say, hey, let him race, then that's a recipe for some massive disasters. Daniel Ricciardo has a lot of life left in his career. He has the chance to win a world championship, and I think that Renault is a good move for him. They've got a big budget,
spending a lot, investing a lot. So
they are.
If he's going to get it, he might get it here.
That's right. And look, let's be honest, the Renault Works team is doing well. On the constructors, they're very, very clearly sitting at the top of the mid-tiers. So this is their chance now to break through with basically an extremely high-level driver in Ricciardo, who we know Daniel is fast. Mr. Late Breaker himself.
And what better course would be suited to Daniel's late braking techniques than the current Perth F1 track that we're driving on and promoting now to Liberty Media in the States? Joel, someone's got to plug this Perth agenda, I'm telling you, buddy.
As he drives past the cemetery. Look, people can't see this, but he's driving past the cemetery.
Another euphemism for Grosjean. We'll get onto that in a moment.
Your mate Grosjean.
You got 1 point this weekend, Joel. He was lucky to get that.
So, top 5, and at number 5, very, very early on in the race, we have Kimi Räikkönen coming in for an early pit. Now, this also causes Bottas to have to come in to pit early to cover that factor, right? Now, that basically has trickle-down effect. So we're calling this number 5 out early. Because it's got some trickle-down effect later on in the race. Okay, which is actually a really good segue into point number 4. And that is the fact that due to circumstances that unfolded during the race, Sebastian Vettel comes out behind Valtteri Bottas after his pit stop. And Bottas basically effectively holds off Vettel for virtually the whole race.
On softs, when he was on ultras and Bottas was on softs. And his were older than Vettel's, and
That's
Vettel
correct.
should have had the delta to be able to pass, but he couldn't yet.
Well, given the course structure, there wasn't really a lot of places for Sebastian Vettel to take advantage of the Ferrari power plant to actually overtake in the first place. So all he could really do was push and push and push. But as we all know, and we've been calling out for a while now, Bottas is a really, really good defensive driver, and he held Vettel off for a really long time. But what that actually meant as well is the fact that because Vettel was pushing Bottas, and trying to overtake from that position, he could never force the pressure onto Lewis. So Lewis basically had the track to himself. He was in clear air for
all the race,
pretty much the whole race.
Yep.
Now we segue into part number 3. Now, because of the degrading tyres that Bottas has, when Vettel finally was in a position to overtake, he basically closed distance.
Yep.
As he's passing Bottas, he actually felt he had enough room. But what he wasn't counting on was the fact that Bottas's tyres didn't have enough grip to stop him running into the back of Vettel. Now, luckily, Vettel basically just kept going. Wasn't really too much damage for him. There was no damage to him, in fact. Bottas, unfortunately, had some severe damage to his front wing. We thought that he was going to have to come in to replace his wing. Didn't end up doing so. However, these continually degrading tyres now led to him side impact right into Ricciardo a couple of laps later as Ricciardo was overtaking on the outside. Bottas had nowhere to go. There was a fair bit of damage to his aero on the right side of his car, but not enough to basically lose any position, which is why he basically ended up coming into P4 and Bottas into P5. Which leads us into point number 2. This is all kind of connected together this week because I think Budapest was actually a very interesting race from this perspective, right? Now, this is huge. It was the massive stuff up in the pits for Ferrari, for both Raikkonen and for Vettel. So first off, you have Kimi Raikkonen coming in for his pit earlier on, his second pit stop, where instead of having his normal 2.5 second pit stop, they held him in the pits for over 4.7 seconds, somewhere around that. It basically meant that when he eventually came out of the pits, he was behind Bottas. Now, Sebastian Vettel comes into the pit thinking he's going to come out in front of Bottas on brand new Ultras and be able to now put some pressure on Lewis, force him to degrade his tyres down. Doesn't happen. Why? Same thing again. He didn't come out of the pits until 4.7 seconds longer as well. He comes out after Bottas, which now basically means that Bottas is in a defensive position to hold him off. Mentionables. Can you echo that?
I'll try.
So, first mentionable is
Ricciardo and Red Bull just really performing very poorly.
It was tyre related, but it was also timing related because he was one of the last people to get his lap in.
Correct.
By the time that it came to change his tyres, it was just too late. There was just nothing to do. Alonso, same scenario. Oh man, Alonso had one of the worst qualifyings of the season for him. Wrong tyre choice, bad weather, bad timing, bad juju. But again, as Alonso proves all along, that dude is fast on race day. Lewis winning that race now puts him very, very far ahead on the driver's points tally table.
1 point shy of an official 25-point lead, 24 points to be exact.
So we probably won't have a swing. Regardless of what happens in the next race, it's unlikely that there's going to be a swing.
Joel's calling it. What happens if you DNS in Spa?
Anyway, Max Verstappen. Look,
this is significant.
It is significant because of anybody else on the field that day. Max was in the best possible position to disrupt the front runners. So for him to DNF in, was it the 5th lap?
Lap 5.
It was lap 5.
It was just an engine failure this time.
So then you basically have a scenario where as he's basically coming to a full stop, Max gets extremely verbal on the team radio and something, not again.
Look, it is inappropriate though, Joel, for the key thing that keeps your car moving forward, being the engine, to fail on you like that.
Marcus Ericsson ran into the back, ran out of room, unfortunately. It was again one of those scenarios where do you got to go? And basically his side of his car touched the side of Ricciardo's car, and there was enough of an impact where we all thought, wow, hang on a second, is there any damage to the Red Bull car there? And is there going to be a scenario where he's going to have to DNF out again? 2 in a row for Daniel? That would have been disastrous. Luckily, both drivers came away from that. Stoffel Van Dorn. So Stoffel got a feel for this guy. They put him back in the old chassis. He was right on Alonso's backside the entire time until he DNF'd out. If Van Dorn had actually been able to finish the race there, you would have seen McLaren actually pick up double points, I believe. I believe.
Back in the points, first double haul for the team since Azerbaijan.
What did he DNF with? Van Dorn DNF'd with what looks to be engine problems.
Yeah.
Again, moving on to number 1. It actually didn't even happen on race day. But we need to call out what happened during qualifying.
Yeah.
That was a lot of rain to the point where it just disrupted everybody. My personal opinion was the fact that it's whether or not you got your lap in before the rain hit.
Correct.
Like Seb basically had a really, really good lap, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared because it couldn't get his next lap in time. It just ended up in everybody having really, really bad qualifying times.
Well, this is one of those courses where apparently it wasn't meant to favour Mercedes, but the Ferraris and particularly the Red Bulls are running more rake on the car, which typically affords more downforce, which is what you want in wet conditions. The Mercedes don't carry as much of that with a longer wheel chassis appearance.
Right.
But because they're carrying more rake, there was some talk about how potentially the water aquifer occurring under the bottom of the chassis may be causing some stall of the downforce effect, and that's something that Mercedes isn't actually experiencing. So that's actually some food for thought. I thought was quite interesting.
The driver of the day.
Driver of the day.
Who have we got?
Well, I think we've got 2 contenders here.
Two serious contenders as well.
Ricciardo
2 serious contenders.
is obviously a natural contender for this race, given the adversity stuff.
P14.
Well, first of all, the adversity with P14, and then secondly, the adversity suffered on lap 1, but pulling his way through the P4.
That's right. He basically started in P14, ran into traffic. Ericsson ran into him. Bottas runs into him. Like, how much more bad juju can you possibly get?
Lost a bit of lap time there, and then pulled it back. But
Mr. Gasly, in your Toro Rosso Honda-powered engine, that was a hell of a race. Hell of a race to basically pick up P6.
he was the only one that wasn't lapped.
So who do we give it to?
I think you have to give to Gasly.
Now, we're a fair way out. How far away are we from Spa?
We've got a 2.5-3 week gap still, but we have something interesting coming up between now and then, so stay tuned. It's an interesting little video, I think.
That's right, and we'll see you in Spa.